Today on Dirty Laundry, we have an incredible woman, Mae Scott, who is here to share her story. Her ex-husband is currently incarcerated in the States for assault, 12 years to life. And she's here to share her story about how she got out of the relationship, went through a divorce, and is raising 3 kids on her own. So welcome, Mae. Welcome to Dirty Laundry. We're so happy to have you here. And we've been following your content. You've been so open about your story. And we're really coming in, I think, with like a pretty much a blank slate because we really want to hear what you've been through and how you're using your platform to help others and shine some light on the failures of some systems.
Yes, I always knew getting a divorce was going to be difficult because I was married to an attorney. And
Oh,
not only
jeez.
was he an attorney, but his dad is an attorney and
Mm.
his brothers are attorneys. And I was a stay-at-home mom.
Oh,
And so for years, I wanted to leave. I told him a few times that I
mm.
wanted to leave. And every time, it's in hindsight, so textbook.
Yeah.
Everything from, dating and the increase in jealousy and control and
Mm.
violence eventually, but when you're in it, right, you don't see those things for
Yeah.
so many reasons. This is the person that I chose to build a life with.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't do the things to any other human that he was doing to me. And so it was very confusing
Mm.
to me to even consider that he's being malicious
Yeah.
and, intentionally hurting me. So, all very confusing, but I did know getting a divorce would be incredibly
Yeah.
hard. So every time I said I wanted to leave or things got bad and he made all the promises, he would cry,
Mm.
that I was correct about everything I was saying, and we would go to marriage counseling. It was just that cycle of things. But I said, okay, because I know divorce is going to be hard. We have 3 children. I
Oh,
don't really want a divorce. I just want you to be the person that you told me you were,
mm.
the
Right.
person that you promised me that you
Yeah.
were.
You want
And,
what you
you know,
what you thought you were buying.
Yeah.
Right? You're buying
yes,
into. Yeah.
absolutely. We had so many conversations about, hey, man, like, I feel like I'm holding up my end of the bargain. You always wanted a stay at home
Mm.
wife or, mom with taking care of the kids. And again, in hindsight, knowing now that he has been diagnosed with like narcissistic personality
Mm.
disorder and things like that, image was very important
Yeah.
to him. And I felt like I was doing everything that I said I would do and everything I promised, and he was doing less than nothing.
Mm.
It was so shocking to me. 2020, right when we were all in lockdown, the
Yeah.
whole world really, he was able to work from home.
Mm.
Which was so great, right?
Yeah.
He had flexibility. I have 3 young kids that I am trying to do homeschool with and still manage the household. And, with people home all the time, the mess is more, the
Yeah.
Mhm.
dishes, right? It's
Yeah.
just
Your
so much more.
survival was at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And what he was doing was, sleeping in every morning and then getting up and working out for a couple of hours, taking a shower, taking a nap,
Mm.
scrolling on his phone. Like, not only was he not working, but I am like running around with like a chicken with my head
Yeah.
cut off. I am drowning
Yeah.
in all of these things. And he doesn't offer to help ever.
Thanks.
If I asked, because what we as women do, every single text message, I have it where I
Mm.
am begging him
Mhm.
for 30 minutes. I said, can I just have 30 minutes a day
Oh.
Just
during this crazy lockdown, where I am being pulled in every direction
yeah.
by the kids, the dogs, even, can I have some reprieve? And him being like, why? No, like, why? That's your job.
That's your
The
job.
kids in the house are your job,
Mhm.
you
Oh.
know, and it was disgusting to me. And
Mm.
so in 2020, it really hit like a fever pitch. And I
Yeah.
said, for real, I'm done. I don't care how hard this divorce is going to
Mm.
be. I'm getting a divorce. I
Yeah.
don't want to
Staying
look at
married is
you.
harder.
With
Yes,
someone like that, like
absolutely.
Yeah.
That was how I felt. So of course, the thing happened and he cried and he told
Mm.
me I was right and we started marriage
Right.
counseling. Marriage counseling was when things got very dangerous for me, and I
Interesting.
had no idea, but she could see through him, right? Like,
Mm.
he could not keep up this
Oh,
facade really anymore of like,
yeah.
"Poor me, and my wife just, like, doesn't love me the way I wanna be loved."
Right.
Oh.
Right?
You talk about respect a lot. I hear that.
I
Oh, right? The respect. She doesn't respect or admire me. I've seen that in these kind of with these kind of personalities.
I sometimes with our kids because that was his thing, you're
Yeah.
right, and he would stomp around and
Yeah.
demand that the kids respect him,
Respect.
like, I don't even really say that word
No.
anymore in the house because it's such a trigger for the
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Oh,
demand it from the children, from you, and it's like, what do you, how could you not respect me? You
yeah.
know, you're in lockdown with 3 children trying to just get through the day, and, how
Well,
dare you
it's
ask for a shower or like 30 minutes to yourself? It's you don't deserve that.
the default is you must respect me, but I will do nothing to earn it.
Yes, we
It's
had that
yeah.
conversation times when I would say, to me, respect is earned, and you
Mhm.
have done nothing
Yeah.
to
So
earn
this is interesting.
anybody.
I want to hear more about the therapist because often we hear as mediators, yes, we tried, counseling, it didn't work. It's fairly like
Right.
predictable in terms of the steps folks
A
take to
recipe.
try and save their marriage, right? To try to avoid divorce for whatever reason. Often it's this sort of narcissistic personality that is using it as an opportunity to sort of weaponize and hold firm in their position, but yours saw through it.
Eventually, I will say at the beginning, it's what you said. So we
Mm,
went into that first session. He made the appointment because I said, I don't want to do
yeah, good
this,
for you.
and he was just such poor me. So we go in there. And I was very honest with her. I said, I have one foot, if not both feet out the door. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in this. I am really doing this for the sake of the children, like what for
Mhm.
the children,
Oh,
Yeah.
for the
what we do,
That's
right?
what we
children.
do.
And I left that session in the parking lot crying, begging him to forgive me for
Mhm.
being like such a terrible wife.
Mm.
He completely flipped
Yeah.
the script and the narrative. And again, I used to tell that therapist, I was like, when I die, just put confused on my tombstone
Aw.
because I can't, like, nothing makes sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so as we were seeing her, after a few months, that's when she
Mm.
started, but at first she was fooled by him as
Yeah, I
well.
believe it. I believe
What
it.
comes
And
this charm, and there's a lot of like
Yeah.
charisma with these types of personalities,
I've
and
had
they
some and they do well. Like they really do well in the world. That's why typically they are successful.
right,
There's some modicum of, wealth or position in the community. They're
right.
often, I don't know, very publicly well spoken,
Philanthropic sometimes.
right?
I always hear that like
yes,
those types of people are like they treat everyone else different
Yes.
than they treat their family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So they say the monster comes out at home, whereas outwardly they're the best guy
Yeah,
or the best woman or like they're just the best person, and no one then can understand
exactly.
when that sort of veil is lifted.
Or no
which
one understands when the woman is like, no,
No,
seriously, this is what's happening behind closed doors. It's like, but it's
he's the best
impossible.
guy. Look what
So
he does.
involved
yes.
in the
Yeah.
community, coaches your kids or gives back or volunteers. Meanwhile, you're living with a monster. Anyways, continue.
Yes, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Like, we all
Yes.
see that so often. And so after a little more than a year of counseling, she told us, I this isn't marriage counseling, what we're doing here.
Mm.
She told my ex, you need to get yourself some help, and
Oh,
then
good.
maybe we can all come back together here. So at this point, the violence had been escalating over the, year and a half. And so now I was terrified to get a divorce, not only the whole attorney thing, and also I was very worried for mine and the kids' safety.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
was an avid hunter. He had his concealed carry permit. There were a
Shit.
lot of weapons in the house.
Okay.
Oof.
I thought we have to stay now. So I found another marriage counselor who was a man because I thought
Mm.
maybe,
Ah.
right, they'll connect a little
Yeah.
better,
Yeah.
something. He won't feel like we're attacking him.
Mm.
So we did a couple session and then he asked to meet with each of us individually, which is pretty
Standard.
typical.
Yeah.
So he met with my ex, and then he met with me a few days later, and we get into the session, and he said, "You and your children have to leave."
Oh,
He said, "He
wow.
is
Wow.
going to kill
Oh,
you."
wow.
And I remember saying, like, you're wrong. You don't know." Even though at this point, he had put his hands around my neck to the point of, like, losing bladder control, like,
Oh.
it was horrific, like,
Oh.
hours of torture in a closet,
Oh my
and
God,
still, when
Mae.
somebody said to me, "He's going to kill you," I was like, "No, no."
Mm.
Would I was so brainwashed, though,
Yeah.
right, by
Let's just
By
take
all of it.
years of conditioning.
strangulation is one of the number one markers of potential femicide.
Oh.
So if they can do that,
Well,
the
because think
next step,
about it. You're looking at this person
it is the
in
number
their
one.
eyes. Like, it is so intimate, the proximity you have to
Oh
be
my
to be
gosh.
in that kind of position where you're literally looking at this person who you love, who you married, who you built a family with, watching the light go out of their eyes. I cannot imagine anything more terrifying.
And I'm
I
so sorry that you went through that.
So sorry. Fuck.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's been years too. Sometimes people are like, "Look at you." I'm like, "Yeah, this is years later."
Yeah,
Like, I was like a
Yeah.
exactly.
shell of a human for a
Yeah.
Yeah.
while there, you know? But he said that to me, and this counselor, he was like, "I will not work with him." He was like,
Wow.
"He's dangerous." And so,
Wow.
we kinda got fired by this
Right.
counselor.
Yeah.
So I found us another male counselor. In our very first session, our couple session, he looks at my ex and he was like, "Do you know what a bully you are?" He was like,
Wow.
"What are you doing here?" And then my ex was arrested like 2 weeks later, and kind of like the rest is history. But what was interesting about all of that, and kind of then where I get like into talking about like all the divorce stuff, right,
Mhm.
is that after he was arrested, he was charged with 5 felonies and 4 misdemeanors, and one of the misdemeanors was child abuse. And so I finally felt emboldened
Mm.
to file for divorce. I consulted with a few different divorce attorneys. They all told me basically the same thing, right? That the status quo of the marriage, especially
Mm.
financially, like stays, and I'm thinking, okay, like the day after he was arrested, I was applying for jobs
Mm.
because I knew
Yeah.
how he was and how punitive
Mm.
and malicious. So, but at that point, right, like I'm a stay-at-home mom, he's an attorney, even though he had been arrested, the bar association hadn't, like, nothing had been reported, right?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
innocent until proven
Right.
guilty,
Sure.
like,
Which I mean,
nothing.
I
And he
understand there's a process. Like they're not going to strip him of his
Yeah.
license until there's probably a conviction,
But like maybe a
a suspension.
temporary suspension,
Like
right?
he shouldn't be practicing. I mean, I don't know what type of law. What type
but
of
they
law
didn't.
was he practicing?
Um, Mostly municipal, so
Mm.
he
Okay.
works they have
I
their
don't know.
small law firm, and they're,
Yeah.
like, the town attorneys for different places, like, all throughout the
Sure.
state.
Right.
So, pretty niche, but also he works for his daddy, so,
Right.
like,
Mm.
come on,
Yeah.
in all of this. And so, yeah, every attorney is telling me, like, while everything gets sorted, everything stays the same. And I
Yeah.
thought, okay, then I can finally do this. I can save money because I got a job for me and the kids. My parents said they could help with attorney fees. I'm like, all
Mm.
right, I can do this.
Yeah.
So I file for divorce. He immediately cuts me off from everything. Not that there was much to be had, because one of his control tactics was
Mm.
to keep us in like
Yeah.
disgusting amounts of debt, like
Oh.
hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt to keep me
So you can never
financially
leave. Yeah.
trapped. And
Yeah.
also, I wasn't allowed to work, right? So
Right.
there wasn't much to be had, but still, he cuts me off from everything. He cancels the insurance, which it directly states, right? You cannot
Yeah.
cancel the insurance. He stops paying the mortgage. The house goes into
Oh my
foreclosure.
Oh my
God.
gosh.
And the court is just sitting there saying, like, yeah, there's like nothing
Yeah.
really we
Oopsies.
can do.
And he doesn't have any assets probably to his name that you could even draw from. Like if the court was even going to
Correct.
intervene and say, okay, he's got, $100,000 in savings, we'll take
Yeah.
from there to tide the family over. There probably wasn't anything. He probably just lived from dad's paycheck.
Well, that's a thing. And
Exactly.
even like if you were to say, okay, well, garnish wages, probably
What
dad,
wages?
dad could probably manipulate those wages. Exactly.
Ding, ding, ding. That is exactly what happened. That is exactly. He showed zero income.
Yep.
He's living, with his mommy and daddy.
Yeah.
They're just protecting him. And the knife to my heart in all of that betrayal, the night he was arrested was the first time I ever called the police. For the years prior to that, I called his parents every
Oh.
time, and his parents would come over and intervene, and they would talk him down and they would help. And so for them, then after I called the police to be like, oh, you broke the rules here,
Right.
Family
and
code.
like,
So
yes.
they were not happy with you. Well,
Yes. Even though I called them before I called the police that night, they couldn't talk him down that night.
Oh, wow.
And, as I'm sitting there, I thought he broke my nose. I'm bleeding. It's like, so, and he had his gun. And so, yes, I called the police and they're like, how dare you? How dare you call the police on our son? I'm
Yeah.
like,
I thought,
Yeah.
okay, but like, it's almost like it's water under the bridge, even though it's not. Like, there's still hurt there, but like, what am I going to do with that stuff? I've come a long way in like my healing, but what I was just wildly unprepared for was family court and divorce court, right? Like,
Yeah.
he has been charged with child abuse. Child protection is now involved with our family. There's an open investigation, and the attorneys are telling me you have to give him at like probably 50% time. And
And
if you
also,
don't,
where the fuck went that status quo of the marriage? So you could have your kids full time as long as you were married to an abuser. But the second you decide to prioritize your safety, your life, not only do you have to become self-sufficient after taking time off, you have to get back into the working world. He's providing no support in any way, and he is automatically entitled to half of the time with the children.
with an active child abuse charge. And
with a cherry on
active
top.
criminal
Yeah.
charges against him. Yeah.
And my kids were, at the time he was arrested, they were 5, 10, and 14. And
Wow.
so the 10-year-old and the 14-year-old were vocal. They had witnessed a lot of things, and they were like, we don't want to see him, and even with that, they're like, well, like, you guys have to. And so I ended up spending about 9 months and like $100,000 to fight for supervised family time. And, we eventually got it, but it was, I felt crazy
Yeah.
Mhm.
that these were the things that I had to do to protect my kids. And again, it felt very much in family court. Like, he could do whatever he wanted. Like you said, he went against every single injunction. And it's like, I sneezed and they were
Yeah.
like, what did you do?
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Like, is that hurting your children?
Yeah.
Are you, I got a job. And what does he do? He files a motion like that I'm neglecting the children
Oh
because
my
I work.
Oh my it's like it is the playbook. And I think
Yes.
women are the villains in family court.
Always.
The mothers are the villains.
Because I'm thinking, well, if I didn't get a job, you would be like saying that, I already heard about what a gold digger I am. And I'm like, there is no gold, guys.
Right.
Like, what? Okay.
Debt
Right,
digger.
Yeah. I mean, damned if you do and damned if you
You're
don't,
damned if you
right?
do,
Like,
damned if you
That's
don't.
exactly
what
it.
am I supposed to do here? And so, like you said, I'm entering the workforce again for the first time in like 12 years. And, I'm trying to support these kids who have experienced so much trauma. And now, like, their dad is gone, and plus my own trauma, and, all these things. And, all he does is he spends years like pushing back and making it so much harder than it needs to be. And like, the amount of money spent on this, like, that kills me because that money could have been for the kids. Like, my
Exactly.
parents have said, they were willing, of course, to help me with that, but they were like, what if we had taken that $200,000 and been able to like get you and the kids back on your feet, or like pay for the kids sports? Because not only was he not paying any bills, he wasn't paying child support, and he wasn't helping with any shared expenses. I was doing 100% of it. And then, just because he is so disgusting of a human, he filed a motion for spousal support, and the judge granted it.
What?
I had to pay him $550 a month in spousal support because he told the judge that because of my baseless
Mm.
allegations and the charges that I pressed, which I'm like, you guys know that in domestic violence, the victim cannot press charges
Right.
because
That's
of this exact thing, right? Like harassment, intimidation, coercion, like all these things. I did not press any
no,
charges.
it's the
I
crown
called the
attorneys
police.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
the
what
district
came
attorneys. Yeah.
from there, well, that's out of like my control. I don't know what like sorcery you guys think I have over here, and so because of that, he just couldn't work. And the judge was like,
Oh my God.
yeah, like that makes sense. And my attorney, like, I think he almost got held in contempt because he
Just
like jumped up. He's like, he's voluntarily underemployed.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's already been charged with all of this domestic violence.
Yep.
This is domestic violence. Like,
Yes.
look what he is doing. And
Yes.
the
He's just
judge was like,
using
well,
you.
yeah, he was
Fuck.
like, "Well, his income is 0 and hers at the time, I was making $54,000 a year supporting
That's
myself and 3
And
children."
3 children.
pennies compared to what you needed to support
Oh
these
my
kids and
God.
yourself. You're making just enough to like keep the lights on, and you have to pay spousal support.
I'm also so surprised, Mae, that your eldest at 14 at this point, no onus was given to no power in their voice, their choice, nothing.
So I ended up getting her added to the protection order, which was a
Okay.
lot of work
Oh,
as
wow.
well because she was directly injured during like a time when he was attacking me. And
Mm.
so when I was able to get her on the protection order, while that helped a lot, I was still told that like family court trumps that criminal. So if a
Yeah.
judge were to order her to have contact with him, even with the protection order, she would have had to.
What?
And luckily that did not happen. We ended up getting a child and family investigator
Okay.
who, I mean, you hear horror stories, but ours I felt like saw
Yeah.
everything for what it
Yeah.
was. She was very thorough. My ex filed a motion about how he was always the primary parent. And and then he wrote in there because he was trying to prove that he was or something. He was like, and as far as like the names of the kids, like doctors, dentists, and counselors, like that's all in May's phone.
Hmm.
I was like,
You
okay,
mean
so
the
you as the
primary
primary
parent's phone?
parent, mhm, yeah, you don't even
Yeah.
know like when or like, any of this information. And my ex was gone a lot because he was a hunter. So,
Mm.
like September, October, November, December, he would like be gone on weeks at a time for hunting
Wow.
trips. And then in the spring months, they'd be like scouting and camping and whatever. So I'm not exaggerating. After he was arrested, it was 3 full days before my 5-year-old was like, "Where's dad?"
Wow.
Because he was so used to him being gone,
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then for him to come and say like, "Oh, I always did everything," but I'm not quite sure what like the kids' teachers' names are, but yeah, I do everything here. Um
And
and one thing I just had like no idea about the brutality too of smear campaigns, right? Like
Mm.
I had heard of them and I mean it just that knocked me down so hard. I was just shocked by the things that I was reading about myself. And I know that like you guys or like listeners don't know me from anybody, but like I'm a pretty like vanilla, like average person. And to read about how like I engage in sex acts for money and that I drive drunk with my kids in the car, that I can never get out of bed because I'm so like hungover and I abuse over the counter pills and I scream in my kids' faces all the time. Like it that was the most like hurtful
Yeah.
stuff. Like it made me like physically ill when
And
I was reading these
is he doing this
things.
is coming out of the court documents or this is like posting
the
on
court document.
socials?
No, he submitted all that to the judge.
Mm.
With
Which of course is public record.
with no evidence to back it
No
up. It's like
evidence.
let's choose. It's like like sex trafficking for 500 and drug use for
Yeah.
300, and it's like what's like pick. It's right. It's like there's like a spin. It's I honestly I imagine a wheel, and the family lawyer is just going, "Yep, that one."
Wheel of
Yeah,
fortune.
a wheel
or
of misfortune.
Misfortune.
It's a wheel of misfortune. It's like let's see which one we can actually stick to her.
Yes, and I
Hopefully none
remember
of them
even
suck.
Yeah.
No, thank goodness, but it was still, then I had to spend my time and energy. I am calling the dentist and saying, do you have the records of me signing all of,
Yeah.
the consents, to treat, and emailing the schools. I had to provide every single email that I had sent like the kids' schools for years, and every sign up genius that I had used
Right?
for the kids,
Yeah.
and for, every communication with their coaches. And, I had to spend months,
Mm.
and I don't even know how many hours of my time, like proving that I'm not. When I first got the interrogatory responses that he submitted that said all of these things, I called my attorney. I was like, I'm going to go right now and do a hair follicle test. I was like, I've never even used
Yeah.
marijuana because that's how boring of a human I am.
Yeah.
And he was like, hold on. He's like, you're not doing that. And I was like, yes, I am. I
Yeah.
was like, I've got nothing to hide. Like,
Yeah.
what do they want? My blood, my urine? Like, I don't care. He's like, no, you don't need to do that. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, how is he allowed
But that's the
to just
thing.
say this?
You
They
still
Yeah.
do have to prove it. So yes, your lawyer is
Mhm.
correct. You don't need to go do a urine sample or a blood test, but you have false allegations and now you're spending countless hours just gathering evidence to prove. Meanwhile, he's allowed to bring forth these random accusations with no proof whatsoever. No documentation to prove this completely.
unless there's documentation that should not be allowed in court documents. Unless there's evidence, like, you had a DUI or you were in rehab or
Sure.
there's whatever. Unless there's, and because those issues do exist, unless there's evidence, that should not be allowed in
Yeah.
court documents because they're going to put them in.
But I love how there's no evidence required there, but then you have evidence of criminal activity and police
But
charges.
we're not going to deal with that. No, no,
No,
no.
that's insubstantial.
No, no,
Oh, we
no,
can't.
no, no.
No,
He hurt
that's-
you and the kids. No,
That doesn't count.
Let's talk about spousal support,
Yeah.
though.
You owe him
That's
money.
exactly what it felt like. And I love, because you guys are mediators,
Yeah.
right? So eventually, after, we go to a full week of criminal trial, I testify for 8 hours. He
Oh,
is found guilty of everything. He is sentenced to 12 years to life in
wow.
prison. And even then, it still took 7 months to get a divorce because he's filing all of these motions about, I honestly like lost track. I don't even
Yeah.
know what they all were anymore, but we finally get to mediation. Mediation took 9 hours. I cannot tell you how many hours of that was him. So his parents intervened in our divorce as well.
Mm.
So they're part of mediation as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of
Sometimes you do divorce your
course.
in-laws or your outlaws, as I like to
Yes.
call
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yes, I really was divorcing my ex-father-in-law more than anybody, in this. And how much time was spent. And the mediator, I give her so much credit. Like, I actually don't know how you guys do this job because I don't know how she kept a straight face,
Mhm.
because they were asking that my in-laws take the kids every weekend to go like live in an apartment down by the prison, and then that the kids would like go spend their days at the
The
prison
days
with him.
at prison. So your children are
As
now
like
sentenced to days in
Yeah.
prison.
Weekends. Let's
weekends.
spend the best part of your childhood.
What did you
Weekends.
do on the weekend? The teacher asks. Well,
Just my weekend incarceration.
I was oh my gosh.
May, we're so sorry to make light of this.
I
This
know.
is
I'm sorry.
No, oh my gosh, I have
insane.
to.
Like, and we have heard and talked to so many people, both in our private practices and in this, podcast. What the actual?
I have,
How
I have, so, I
you're
have so many
still-
questions. Okay, wait. Can we just stop for one? I want to know just like about. Can you talk about his charges and how that actually happened, or are you allowed to, or is that a no?
Yeah. Yes.
No. Because
Yeah.
12 years. Like, just stop for a second.
Yeah, that's significant.
12 years to life is no laughing matter. So how did that come about? And if you can tell us more about that.
Yes. So the charges stemmed from 3 nights, one of which was the night he was arrested. And then there were two especially violent nights within like the 18 months before his arrest, where I had taken photos. The kids were involved in one of them. Like, the kids were subpoenaed to testify
Oh, shit.
as well. And that after one of them, I didn't call the police, but I contacted the crisis line and they had a transcript.
Oh, good.
So, all of these things kind of lined up, and the district attorney felt like we had enough evidence. I mean, one of the things that I offered to the district attorney, and he was like, we're not using that. But after one of the very violent nights, I had checked out from the library all of these books about like angry men, forgiveness, like trying to wrap my head around. That was the night he put his hands around my neck. But I had all of these photos and things too, and they all lined up, right, with what I'm accusing him of doing. And so in the year and a half or whatever leading up to trial, there's lots of negotiating happening, and at one point, my divorce attorney called and said the partner at the criminal law firm just called him and said, how much money to make this go away?
Fuck off.
And I said to my divorce attorney, I was like, okay, I'll actually like think about it, but I will just tell you it's going to be like Dr. Evil style from Austin Powers where it's like $100 billion. There is no amount of money where I can look at my children and say like, he did all these things, but like he paid us money, so it's okay. Like, absolutely not. That's what my ex's family did, right? Like, what? And look how that turned out. Like, I am trying to be better for my children in
break that cycle.
Yeah. So anyway, lots of negotiations, and he was offered a few different plea deals, and one of them was 30 days in county jail. But with any of the plea deals, he would have had to plead guilty to something. And he, to this day, he and his family, and remember, I used to call his parents all the time. They saw this. They say that I brainwashed the children into seeing and hearing things that never happened. I brainwashed the police, the investigators, the district attorney, the judge, the jurors, the whole world. I have brainwashed them. Nothing ever happened. Ever. And if anything did happen, that was just like a marital, like, that's not a crime, right? And so he was charged. Some of the charges are repeat charges from those different nights. And so he was charged with felony sexual assault, like overcoming a victim's will on 2 of them, 2 felonies of physical assault, 1 felony charge of that it's like rape, but they call it I don't know. Like I have all the words because I wrote a book about it too. All the legal terms are in there. And then the misdemeanors were like false imprisonment, taking my phone. The child abuse charge was a misdemeanor. So, but he would have had to plead guilty to something, and he wouldn't. And so we went to trial, and again, I think he was so arrogant and narcissistic that he was like, I got this, like, in the bag, no problem. But like the night he was arrested, he had shoved his hands like down my throat, and my mouth was like all cut up, and you could see because I went to the hospital and they used like their special cameras and whatever, to take pictures. And so you could see on the photo these like perfect lines with like crescent marks, right? And so in criminal trial, do you guys want to guess how they said I got those marks in my mouth?
How?
I ate tortilla chips wrong.
Well, it's because the bag doesn't come with instructions, Mae. So that's on Fritos.
Like, be careful of this Cinco de Mayo because those tortilla chips, like
it's laughable. How? These are intelligent, respected.
But they didn't buy. Hold on, but they didn't buy it. This nonsense. They didn't buy it. You had medical reports about hands in your throat, so that was not. The lawyers can say what the hell they want.
Sure,
they could say aliens did it. It doesn't mean it's true.
Oh, I'm shaming the lawyer that thought that was a good defense. To be clear, that's what that I was mocking that person.
The lawyer,
like, that's the best you can come up with.
Is tortilla.
Fucking tortilla
how did
chips.
Think about, again, it's the wheel. Tortilla chips for $600.
Let's try that.
I thought they were going to blame like your nails, like your manicure. Oh, she got, I don't know.
I thought it was going to be all of her sexual acts that she was doing for money.
Oh, that's what it is. It's the sexual activity.
Well, yes, right. Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. Like, at least like say I'm bulimic maybe or something. Like, I don't know.
That would have been a better one. She's bulimic and has long nails.
Yes.
She spends all of our money and time at the nail salon. That's why I'm the primary parent.
Oh my God.
I mean, but you're
My
right. Like, I do
gosh.
have to laugh about it, no,
Yeah.
because it's just
It's
so
so absurd.
Well, it's crazy making.
unbelievable.
So he's
So,
in
yes.
prison now.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, and so in order to ever be eligible for parole, so some of his sentences are concurrent, right? But
Mm,
there are minimum sentences, especially with these like violent sexual felonies
yeah.
that he was convicted of, which is where like we get 12 years to life. And in order to be eligible for parole, he has to complete these rehabilitation programs, one
Mm,
for sex crimes and one for domestic violence. And my understanding is that both of those come with the first part of like taking accountability,
Mm,
writing letters of apology.
mm.
And so our mediator, when we did mediation, she was like, "Man, I think he's going to be in there forever because he's still saying he didn't do anything."
Yep.
She was like, she was like, "I've worked with narcissists before." She was like, "But this one is like," I was like, "I know." Like I really do give her so much credit because we ended up figuring everything out.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
didn't have to go to the trial for it or
Right.
for final orders.
Yeah.
But I mean, the
Shit.
skills you guys must have and the
Ugh,
patience because it
it,
was pretty ridiculous.
I mean, it's also
that
it's
is wild.
unusual, I think, to mediate a divorce proceeding
You've got to.
that is with one person incarcerated.
Yeah.
So, what does that final agreement look like?
Yeah.
I'm
Is that
so
property division? You've already lost your
It's just
house.
parenting.
Mhm.
It's
Parent.
access, right? It's access to the kids through the prison.
Yeah, mostly. So I was, APR'd, allocated parental
Mm,
rights and responsibilities. So I
good.
have 100%
Good.
decision making, custody. We did agree to, the kids can contact him via phone or maybe even video if they
Right.
want to. I've had my kids in counseling since,
Good.
I mean, my daughter since even before he was arrested because things were so bad.
Mm.
But, and so we talk about it in counseling of like, hey, especially different ages and stages, right? Like
Yeah.
my middle son is like starting to go through puberty. Like,
Yeah.
is it maybe a time you might want to like connect with your
Mm-hmm.
father? He's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
no. But,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so lucky I have incredible like family and friends and
Oh,
support that,
good.
I don't think my kids feel like they need to look there. But
Mm.
I also imagine, my oldest is graduating high school. And I think about when she goes to college in the fall, is she going to be like, yep, my dad's in prison? Or is she going
Yeah.
to be like, he's just not around? Or, like
Right.
as they go through these phases of life, this is going to come up for them. That
For
is
sure.
always their father,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
And whatever I can do to help them have peace with that, and if that's them talking to him or,
Yeah.
like, as long as it's safe and appropriate,
Yeah.
okay. That
Yeah.
isn't like a threat to me. I'm secure in myself and my relationships with them. So
But you're right. I
we
love that you can be open minded because they might have questions. They might be curious
yes.
about things. They may never get the answers they're looking for, but you're not going to be the one to not give it to them. You lead them right back to the horse's mouth, like you said, as long as it's safe.
And give them permission to explore that if
Yeah.
they want to. Tell us about your book. What's the name of your book?
I have it. It's
Yeah, hold it
an
up.
See.
embarrassment of pandas.
Mm,
And that is because a group of pandas is called an embarrassment. Like, and I describe pandas were a very important animal in our family. They were like, but also my ex and his family are super embarrassing.
yeah.
So the beginning of the book is just kind of like who we are and like how he got there. And
Yeah.
then there's a little bit about the criminal because that's interesting. But the majority of this book is just trying to get a divorce and like what that was like. And then the end is a little bit, of like hope and healing. And,
Yeah.
it was really bad.
Yeah.
There was a time that I was like, you guys, I give up. Like, give him my left kidney and
Yeah.
whatever else he wants. Like, I cannot do this
Yeah.
anymore. And, it was lots of time spent crying and like, I mean, so I try to be very real that again, like you guys are seeing me years later and
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot,
Yeah.
but like it was real hard. And so hopefully that can be a bit of like an inspiration if anybody's going through anything kind of similar because while it doesn't have to match up with my experience. There are those patterns, right? You guys
Mhm.
see the
Yeah.
same like
Yeah.
overarching things all the time. And
Yeah.
like, so
Yeah,
just
we
trying to
do we do
break
It's
we do talk about the abuser playbook. Like it's
and
just
yes.
so
Like we can
Textbook.
predict what's
Yeah.
going to happen next type of thing.
Yeah.
And we will definitely link your book.
Yeah. Was it cathartic to write? I mean, finding out, I don't know the ins and outs of, but mentioning the criminal charges and rape and sexual assault, and like that can't be easy for you to reconcile in your brain. This is the person who I chose, who I built a family with, who is capable not only of the harm that he caused me, but so much more.
Yeah. And I think too, for the kids, that's what's so hard, right? Like we all have really good memories.
Yeah.
Right? Like we did fun things together.
Yeah.
Like we laughed together. It's nobody is like all good or all bad. Right. And like,
Totally.
how can this person who is like so tender and gentle and loving be the same person who just did this? So the book for me, my initial motivation was like, we have to talk about what is happening in family court. Like this is so messed up. And, I really just wanted to like get loud about it. And like, because also as I was going through it, I was learning it was happening worldwide.
Yeah.
Like this, I'm not unique in this at all. And then part of it was too, I used to minimize. I'd be like, hold on. Was it that bad? Like, did I overreact? And like seeing it all back to back, like I'm like, oh no, it was bad.
It's
like
real bad.
this was bad. Yeah. So it was validating for me to like see it all written out too. And then, like I said, just to like try to help if anybody else, because even though I had so many wonderful, supportive people around me, I felt so alone because it's just like nobody really knew, right? Like what it was like. So if this can help somebody feel maybe not so alone and like, hey, I see you because like I've been where you are and I know you want to give up and I know it feels impossible. Like sometimes when I look back, I'm like, truly, I don't know how we got here.
Yeah.
Like it was impossible. And like somehow we did. And I'm so glad because like there is another side, right? To all of this. Like life really is beautiful. And like, and I'm embarrassed that I ever thought what I had with my ex was love. Like that was not ever love, but I didn't know, right? Like, so just learning and growing has been very hard, but like so rewarding. And I've got to meet like so many cool people. Like how would I ever probably have stumbled across your guys' path otherwise? Like it's so cool.
Well, we are
Look how
so
far you've
inspired by you.
come.
Like I think that's why I love your socials so much too, is because you can really see the way that you do talk about it. There are so many people going through it. And yes, you are on the other side. That does give them some hope. It validates, like you talk about, there's so much self-gaslighting of, oh, did I make this up? Did I make this seem so much worse? Was it actually this bad? And for all of those women that are going through it, they come across your raw, honest, brave as fuck post and like, okay, yeah, no, this is legitimate and I need to do something to get out of it. So I commend you. I thank you. We're doing this work professionally. You're living it personally. And it's, damn girl, you're incredible. So thank you.
Thank you.
And your kids have a lot to be proud of.
Yeah.
Like look at this warrior of a mother that they have. So good for you.
And
Wow.
thank you for sharing your story. We really, really appreciate it. Man.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I'm still in the wow phase. Yeah, still there.
It's incredible. Wow. Yeah. And look like you started out and now you're going to the Capitol today.
Going to the Capitol.
Yes.
Changing laws. This is what it is though. Like unfortunately, this is how women have changed the world thus far. We have to fight. We have to band together. We have to stand up for ourselves. No one is doing this for us. It's our job and you're doing it. And you're doing it for so many that will follow because there will be so many that follow, unfortunately, in your footsteps.
And you're up against a system that is set up against you.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you for doing it.
Yeah. Go get him,
Thank you.
Tiger. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver, produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.